You know I love the guy. I love J.D. Vance, and we love you for being here on KCMO Talk Radio. We love that it is a Red Friday. Feels like it's been a minute since we've had one of these, but it is a Red Friday. Huge Broncos game coming up in a couple of days. We'll preview that with Kendall Gammon 1 hour from now at 7:04. But I love J.D. Vance as well. But I heard him last night, and I'm like, come on, Mr. VP. Listen. I will buy a lot from you guys. But when we're talking about the cost of living, and that has been top of mind on so many discussions this week, when we talk about the cost of housing, which has been top of mind this week, as you've had ideas floated out there like rollover mortgages, you've had ideas like 50-year mortgages, you've had all these things coming to the forefront this week. I hear J.D. Vance last night on Fox News talking about the housing crisis and say this.
There's another component of this, Sean, which to me is maybe the most important because I care so much about our young people being able to afford a good life. A lot of young people are saying housing is way too expensive. Why is that? Because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants who were taking houses that ought by right go to American citizens. And at the same time, we weren't building enough new houses to begin with, even for the population that we had. So what we're doing is trying to make it easier to build houses, trying to make it easier to build factories and things like that so that people have good jobs. We're also getting all of those illegal aliens out of our country, and you're already seeing it start to pay some dividends.
Come on, bro. You got to be kidding me.
Come on, man.
So which one is it? I mean, they got to get their story straight here. Do we have to deport illegal aliens because they are basically reliant on the state? Or are they all fully approved for 30-year mortgages and soaking up all the $200,000 housing stock around the country? I mean, which one is it? Because it can't be both. Now, I lean to the former than the latter. And this is not about the immigration policy of the administration. I, by and large, agree with the immigration policy of the administration. But the reason that a young couple that's 30 years old, married, household income, let's say they both work, $125,000, $150,000, trying to get into a home for $350,000 or something like that. The reason that they're having issues right now, the reason that they're getting squeezed, the reason that they can't afford the house has nothing to do with Jose, who came across the border during Joe Biden's 4 years in office, and the other 10, 15 million like him who, frankly, are barely getting ahead. You know, they're not the ones beating out that couple for the starter home in Overland Park this morning. I promise you that's not the case. Now, if there's an impact on housing because of tens of millions of illegal aliens in the country, it would be in your multifamily, lower-income neighborhoods. That's where that would be an impact. That has nothing to do with people who are trying to buy a home for the first time, who might have a 10%, 15%, dare I say, 20% down payment on that home. That's not why they're losing out. Come on. I mean, they've got to get their story straight. They've got to get their messaging right, and that's the broader conversation here. GOP doesn't really have messaging on this issue. What they can say is, listen, we inherited a tough situation. It was not going to get fixed overnight. Here are the things that we want to work on for housing. Here's the stuff we want to work on for grocery prices. And if you give us a little time, we believe these policies will work out. But they're pointing fingers at different groups on different days. I don't think they're being all that honest about what's going on. In some cases, they're whistling past the graveyard, people saying it's the greatest economy ever, everything's awesome, if it's all hunky-dory, life is good. And it's like, no, people are still hurting. So acknowledging that first and foremost is an important point. And then just being intellectually honest matters as well. And that's not what I got last night. Bringing affordability to millennials and Gen Z is a critical thing to do for their political future. Because if not, here's what's going to happen. You are going to get far left grifters on the national stage like Mom Donnie Light and people like that, and they'll show up with a big smile, and they'll show up with big promises, and people are going to fall for it hook, line, and sinker. That's what's going to happen. Now, what's not going to be popular is maybe more of a free market approach here to all this, which is to say, listen, big government screwed up a lot of stuff the last few years, and it started during COVID. And if you look at most things in your life, the more the government gets involved, the more expensive it gets. I mean, you can look at some of the conversations we've had this week, from housing to food stamps to health insurance. I mean, you can look up and down the list. There's very little evidence to suggest that anything the government actually gets involved in gets cheaper unless the government subsidizes it, which means it's not getting cheaper. It just means the taxpayer's footing the bill. That's all it means. So that's a broader conversation. That's it. I'm not convinced anybody is actually willing to have it right now. 913-408-7957. That's the text line and the studio line here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. And we are streaming this morning on the iHeart and the TuneIn app as well. Pete, the illegals are in violation of court orders. Doesn't matter to me if they're living under a bridge or a nice house. This actually makes me like J.D. Vance even more. I'm not saying that he's wrong on the immigration stance. What I'm telling you is it's got nothing to do with why a 30-year-old couple feels like buying a house is out of reach. I promise you, there's not 20 illegals pooling their money together to go in and buy a $300,000 starter home in Kansas City today. So it's not about liking JD. I mean, if you just want to feel good, if you just want to inject that into your veins because it makes you feel good that he's ragging on illegal aliens, that's fine. And once again, the policy on the immigration issue is one that I agree with. They have closed down the border. They have made this country safer with their immigration policy. I'm on board with it. But it's got nothing to do with why a young couple cannot afford a home in America in 2025. Nothing whatsoever. If there is pressure on the housing market due to illegal immigration, it's probably in poor neighborhoods, multifamily households that take a lot of Section 8. That's where you might see some pressure on the housing market. Not in South OP or Western Shawnee or, parts of Lee Summit and places like that. All right. On the text line, Pete, you're wrong. Supply and demand controls prices. Lack of supply causes higher prices. Yes, it does. That is true. But people at the lower end of the income scale are not impacting people looking for $300,000 to $400,000 homes. There's not upward pressure. It's downward pressure. If you want to rag, here's the thing. If you want to talk about immigration, how about you talk about what's going on when it comes to importing foreign labor for some of these tech jobs? That's something they should go after, but that's not what the VP was referring to there in that commentary. That's not what he was talking about. He was talking about Joe Biden's border and the people coming across the Texas-Arizona border, which has nothing to do with what's going on in the housing market right now. Nothing whatsoever. This came up on X yesterday. Pete, JD's correct, but the reason is slightly more nuanced. Illegals drive up the cost of rental units. This pushes more people into buying a home, which leads to inflated home prices. No, it doesn't. No. People who are competing with illegal immigrants for housing do not suddenly decide they're going out to get a 30-year fixed mortgage on a $300,000+ home. They're not in that space in life. It does not create upward pressure. You can create downward pressure. There's no such thing in this case with housing as creating upward pressure. It's not a thing. People do not live in multifamily homes in poor parts of Kansas City or anywhere else and then decide I'm priced out. I'm going to try to buy a $350,000 house. That's not how it works. I mean, come on. It's not how it works. So these two things are important issues, but they are not related. The issue with housing is a lack of supply going back 15 years, lack of mobility right now with 40% of people locked into mortgage rates under 4%. You have, boomers and older Gen Xers who are like, you know what? I have no reason to move right now. There's no reason to go out there and get another mortgage right now. It doesn't make any sense for me. So everything is just stalled. It's a lot of those things. You have also local and statewide regulations that have been problematic for home builders. And coming up this morning at 9 o'clock, we are going to have on Will Reuter. Will is with the Kansas City Homeowners Home Builders Association. He's going to be in studio at 9 o'clock to talk about this and try to figure out how to solve the crisis for Kansas City and also around the country. So do not miss that later this morning. If you do miss it, it will be up on the podcast after the show as well. Now, speaking of the immigration issue, there was a big rally yesterday by members of the faith community to support what they call and who they refer to as non-violent immigrants. We'll play some of the audio from that rally, what it sounded like here in KCK, and get to whether or not you agree coming up next on KCMO. Big rally out in KCK yesterday. Faith communities came together within the Catholic Church. They're calling it One Church, One Family. And what they say they're doing is supporting nonviolent immigrants. Now, they're leaving out the illegal part. Make of this what you want. Here's what it sounded like on KCTV5 yesterday. And I saw this on the 6 o'clock news last night.
Live at the Archdiocese of Kansas City in Kansas. Leaders there really sending a big message today, Morgan.
Yeah, here they've teamed up with the Diocese of St. Joseph on the Missouri side. Together, they speak to about 300,000 area Catholics on a regular basis. They're calling on everyone to reevaluate what's happening in this country.
It's doing more harm than good.
Deacon Bill Scholl is calling on believers.
I don't know if you read this New Testament and you know about this Jesus guy, but he's pretty concerned about the poor. He's pretty concerned about the oppressed.
Scholl led.
Now, Bill Scholl is going to be on the show at 8 o'clock this morning. So if you've got a question for Bill, jump on at 913-408-7957. But the idea that to be a believer and a follower of Jesus Christ, you have to be, what, a supporter of wide open borders in the United States of America in 2025? Hey, that's totally disingenuous. It's ridiculous policy. It's not sustainable. We're in an untenable situation. And Bill actually used to be a part of a show on Sunday mornings here on KCMO Talk Radio called Religion on the Line. Remember that, Mark? We canceled the show a couple of years back.
I think I helped work at it once or twice.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you and I all ran the board a couple of times. We both did that a few times when the board ops were sick or whatnot. Mark or I would have to come in here and run the board. So, I've seen it firsthand. All nice guys. I think that in many political cases, they were way off board. You had Bill. You had a rabbi in here. I'm blanking on his name. They had another guy on the show. And it wasn't about the politics or anything like that. It's just the show wasn't working anymore for us, so we decided to move on. But neither here nor there, all nice guys, all good people. Misguided, I believe, at times on the political climate and the political arena, but that's beside the point. However, when I heard that last night, I think it's very unfair to suggest that because Jesus cared about the poor, which obviously he did, right? Bill's not wrong about that. He's not. He's right about that. He's concerned about the oppressed, obviously. We have a lot of people in this country who are living in poverty, who we really haven't done a good enough job with, helping out and taking care of in many respects. So why would you then flood the country with 15, 20, 25 million people who we also are going to have to help when we haven't helped our own citizens well enough, many may argue. So this is, to me, a very emotionally driven case cloaked in Christianity that doesn't really get to the heart of the problem and the issue of Joe Biden's immigration policy and the way that this administration is trying to correct some of that, to actually help people at the lowest end of the socioeconomic scale, which impacts the housing market that we just talked about here on the show. So I'll play more of this from KCTV5 last night and get to you at 913-408-7957.
A rosary for immigrants on Thursday.
State citizens have been arrested.
A moment of prayer and a push for attention.
Turning courts into traps where ICE officials show up to arrest people when they show up for the day of court. I mean, how ridiculous is that?
Dozens showed up in Washington Square Park
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners.
to join the national push called One Church, One Family.
Faith is always accompanied by actions. You cannot say that you're Christian and you hate immigrants.
Well, stop. Who hates immigrants? First off, you can hate the policies of Joe Biden that led to 15 to 20 million illegal immigrants coming into the country. You can hate the policy and not hate the person. I don't know anybody who's been like, I hate those illegals. I don't hate anybody who's trying to make a better life for themselves. Do you? I hated Biden's policies because I didn't think they were good for America, but I didn't hate the people. I even said that many times, and I know many of you agree with this sentiment. If you were in the position of many of these poor people in South America and Central America, and you knew that Joe Biden had a wide open border, I mean, would you try to come? I would. I'd try to come. But the policies were not beneficial for the American people because you didn't know who was coming in. You didn't know what their motivations were. We know that people with bad motivations were able to get into this country, people who want to kill Americans, who do not want to, live the American dream. We know that. That's a fact. Okay, so to look at this and say, well, if you support Trump and support the policies of this administration, you hate immigrants, or you're not a good enough Christian or Catholic, that is a totally emotional argument, not based in actually defending the policy of what is going on. Let's go to Bill. He's in Lawrence. Go ahead, Bill. You're on KCMO.
Yeah, I just think that it's contradictory that these spiritual leaders of ours would get up from the pulpit every Sunday and tell us that, Jesus, God hates the sin, not the sinner, and that he came to earth for all men, and then not be able to differentiate the fact that if you break a law, it doesn't matter the law, but if there's no consequence for the little things, there's no consequence for the bigger things. And this is how we end up with the immigrants that are here, and they have 15 felony convictions, and they're still out raping and murdering children in our country.
Yeah, and obviously that is not the bulk of it at all. And I know you're not saying that, Will. That's a small percentage. But to your point, one is too many. I mean, if you close the border, you obviously prevent people who may come in with really bad intentions from doing really bad things, like what we saw in Georgia with Laken Riley, the nursing student who went out for a run and obviously never came home. Now, that is a small percentage, to be clear, but it doesn't matter. You still have to be a country of laws and protect your own people first. And that is not being anti-Christian and cloaking this under the blanket of being a better Christian, I believe, is completely unreasonable. And Bill Scholl is going to be on the show coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. It's going to be an interesting conversation on KCMO. Can we get something else solved by the weekend? I'll explain next. We got to fix this. I don't know when it's going to happen, but doesn't look like it's going to be by the weekend. I'll get to this story coming up here in a couple of minutes. We were just wrapping up the story. There was a big rally in KCK, Catholic communities and churches coming together to protest President Trump and the administration's immigration policy. And we will have on Deacon Bill Scholl for this conversation coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. I know you want to get in the conversation at 913-408-7957. Paul in Kansas City, go ahead, my man.
Hey, Pete. Yeah, I would just ask the Catholic Church to look at our neighbors across the Atlantic, Europe. Europe has been inundated with a migration problem from North Africa where the Islamic Caliphate's taken over. They're not assimilated into the culture. Great Britain is a mess with their immigration problem. So they just need to take a look at Europe, and we do not want to become like Europe where our social services are buckling under the weight, and they're not assimilated, and they're taking over London with their just want to assimilate. Second part is, if Zohan Mandami and the Democratic Socialist Party take power and sweep across the nation in the next 2 decades, there won't be a Catholic Church, so they may want to focus on that too. So,
well,
those are my 2 points.
Those are excellent points as well. Excellent points, right? And you look at what's going on in London. You look at New York City right here. You're absolutely right about that, Paul. It's a great point.
Hey, have a good weekend, Pete. Go Chiefs.
Thanks, my man. Have a great weekend. Yes, happy Red Friday and go Chiefs. Mark in Independence, what's up?
I grew up Catholic, altar boy, Catholic school. I got several things to say about the churches, and I go to church, but let me tell you, if you don't follow the practices, traditions of the Catholic Church and canon law, you'll basically be asked to go to another church. Same goes for the other churches if you don't follow their policies and interpretations of the Bible. Also, the Catholic Church during the Crusades led the wars against Islam from taking over the Western world and doing away with Christianity. So I think a lot of these people protesting need to learn their history. And I don't want to hear some priest acting holier than thou about we shouldn't enforce the law. Why don't they open up their churches, their front doors, and just let everybody pile in, including there at the Vatican? Other than that, I think they ought to shut up.
There you go. All right, then. Tell me how you really feel, Mark. Happy Friday, brother.
Hey, thank you, Bubba. Bye-bye.
You just call me Bubba. I don't mind that. On the text line, Pete, England is ruined. It is done. Yeah, you're right about that. It is in a world of hurt. You're right. No doubt about it. 913-408-7957. Now, this is a good point on the text line. Pete, since when is allowing drugs, disease, crime, and child trafficking into our country the Christian thing to do? That's so true. Because the bad border policies and immigration policies of the last administration resulted in major child trafficking rings being set up all over the country. There are hundreds of thousands of missing kids in America right now because of the last administration's immigration policies. Is that the Christian thing to do? Are they having a better life today? It's an excellent point on the text line, and I'm glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up. And it's something that has to get more discussion here going forward. You're right about that. 913-408-7957. Terry in Topeka. Go ahead, Terry.
Hey, Pete, this is Terry in Topeka.
Yep.
I'm a devout Roman Catholic. I was born and raised Roman Catholic. I always will be a devout Roman Catholic, but I don't pay any attention to this immigration stuff because I support Trump. I do not want illegals in our country. And as far as my religion and all that stuff, it's none of the churches, none of my personal business with the church. I pay my dues. I do everything with the Catholic Church. My kids go to Catholic school. But their stand on immigration to me is a complete violation of our national requirements.
So how do you balance that? I mean, God bless you, man.
I just ignore it.
Well, okay, so you just ignore it.
I read my Sunday Visitor every week devoutly. I read my church news devoutly. But when it comes to this supporting illegals, no. N-O.
Yeah. There you go. All right. You're able to separate the two. Thank you, Terry. Victor in Parkville, go ahead. You're on KCMO.
Good morning, Pete. Here's the thing. The Catholic Church is a global entity worth billions, if not trillions of dollars. Instead of focusing on our government and the United States citizens supporting illegal immigrants here that have broken the law, why don't they focus their energies on the illegals while they're actually in their native country, in the country of their origin? Why don't they work on the charity where they're from so they don't have to cross all those thousands of miles and danger and deal with all that stuff to get here? Why don't they help them where they live?
That is a great point, especially when, to your point there, Victor, as a global operation, when the majority of places like South America remains Catholic, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's an excellent point, Victor.
Catholicism is big. And around the world. Also, it's very big, evidently, in Africa and also in Southeast Asia, along with other faiths. But the whole Western Hemisphere is Catholic. There is so much they could do. Instead of putting all that gilded stuff in all these big, beautiful churches, why don't you feed the people?
Hey, Victor, that is an excellent, excellent point, and that gets to really the front end of this whole deal.
Have a good weekend.
You
Pete.
as well, my man. Billy and Holt, go ahead, Billy.
Yes, sir. I'm not a Christian scholar, but I'm pretty sure in Romans they said, or Jesus said, to obey the laws of the land.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that is obviously something as well, right? So how do you square those two things, Billy?
Just my opinion. From what my take of it is, it was the laws of the land were governed by God.
Mm-hmm.
So I figure if we're a Christian nation that, we do have a spiritual leader in charge right now. He goes to church. Trump's devout Christian. So
yeah.
I would think that obeying the laws of the land would be part of the obedience to God.
Thank you, Billy. The only thing I'll take issue with is I don't know if Trump would even call himself a devout Christian, but
he's wondering if he'll get into heaven a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean, I think his eyes have opened up on the issue of faith. I'll just say that about the president of the United States. Last up here, before we get to a different topic, let's go to Steve in KCK. You're right there in the thick of it after the big rally yesterday in KCK, where you had the Archdiocese of KCK teaming up with the Diocese of St. Joseph to expand their message, knocking the administration on their immigration policy. Steve, last word. Go.
The Wyandotte County's been importing the third world for a long time now. That's why we have a housing crisis. We already got plenty of poor kids. Plus, we already naturalized citizens. America does almost about 1 million people a year. So we bring people in. We got Afghan refugees, Ukrainian refugees. Now we even got South African refugees. We got refugees from all over the world here. It's about, I voted for Make America Great Again. Not Ukraine, not Israel, not Mexico. I voted to make America great again. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you, Steve. Have a good weekend, buddy. I appreciate it. Bill Scholl, deacon with the Archdiocese, he is going to be on the show at 8 o'clock this morning. That is going to be an interesting and fun conversation. Looking forward to it with him. Now, we've got a big weekend ahead coming up when it comes to college football. But, Mark, I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch the games again because this YouTube TV Disney dispute continues on. If you have YouTube TV, you have not had ESPN channels for what is going on 3 weeks now. So I'm going to have to do what I've done the last couple of Saturdays, and that is probably just buy a one-day pass to Sling TV because there's no end in sight for any of this, Mark. No end in sight, man.
Thought Trump would figure this out.
I know.
With the FCC head.
I know.
His name is.
Get Brendan Carr back in the mix here. So if you didn't see this, Disney stock came in, got killed yesterday. Disney stock did not have a good day yesterday. Dropped from $117 a share to $107 a share. So 8-9% in a single day. And part of that is because of the dispute that's going on right now with YouTube TV. Disney is losing $30 million a week as the YouTube TV blackout drags on. Now, it's really hard to find a good guy in any of this because you're talking about two massive multi-billion-dollar operations. It's Google versus Disney, okay? There's no David in this story here. All right? Like, there's no fighting for the little guy here. The little guy is you and me, as we just want to watch a little college football tomorrow, and we're not going to be able to do it. But you've got now a situation where Disney is on the verge of losing another $30 million this week, $4.3 million a day in this dispute. But according to their leaders, they came out with statements yesterday saying, we're not budging. And I'll just say this to ESPN. Be careful what you wish for. A lot of younger sports fans did not grow up with SportsCenter. I did as a millennial. We're probably the last generation that cared about some of the original programming on ESPN like SportsCenter. And Around the Horn and PTI, most people don't care, especially those under 30. They've got to be careful because people may realize, you know what, I can just pirate the game. I'll just buy a one-day Sling TV pass when I want to watch a game. I mean, Monday Night Football, unless the Chiefs are on there, I don't really watch it. The games usually stink. I don't need to see Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Troy Buck. They become one now anyway. They kind of look alike these days. I don't need to see Troy Buck and Joe Aikman out there. I don't need to see that. So they better be careful, man. They really better be careful. Because the only thing that's worth watching anymore on ESPN are the games. And if people can find other ways to do it on daily passes and not pay YouTube TV, which then pays ESPN, they might just go down that road. All right, so let's go to Olathe. We've got a lot of attention on health insurance and the cost of premiums. Obviously, it tied into what was going on during the government shutdown, Affordable Care Act premiums, things like that. Well, in Olathe, we shared this story with you a couple of days ago on Wednesday about how they're seeing massive spikes in their premiums for retirees, firefighters, and those who obviously worked for the city of Olathe are seeing big spikes in their premiums. Well, I have some sympathy, but at the same time, these are able-bodied adults, some of whom took early retirement, and now, because of what is a totally screwed up marketplace and a messed up industry that has only gotten more government involvement over the last 15 years, everyone is seeing their costs go up. And we are supposed to sit here and say, wow, we've got to fix the health insurance premiums for Olathe City retirees when Olathe residents are seeing their property taxes skyrocket. They're also getting spikes in their insurance premiums. What are they supposed to do? Kick in more money for retirees to cover their health insurance premiums? Because that's the only way this gets solved, right? The taxpayer has to foot the bill. And I'm not willing to go there. I'm not willing to have any interest in going there. Here's what Channel 41 KSHB updated this story with yesterday.
Well, retired Olathe Deputy Fire Chief Todd Hart has a plaque on his wall displaying his service of 31 years. He says that he's taken that plaque off his wall and moved it to his basement because he says this represents how he feels as he prepares for a 500% increase in his health care costs from the city.
Oh, come on, Todd. I don't know Todd, but I feel like I know Todd. Really? Are you kidding me?
Come on, man.
You're going to take the plaque and move it to the basement? I'll show them. I mean, what do we? I mean, that's what my 5-year-old would do. Oh, boy. I moved the plaque. Better not move the plaque. Really? What are we doing here? You're no longer proud of your service because your insurance premiums went up? I mean, is that supposed to make me or anybody else feel like, fine, just raise my property taxes more. I'll cover the bill for you there, Todd. Jeez, what are we doing here?
With the premium increases, he says his wife will have to move to the Affordable Care Act marketplace. And he'll move to a city plan that was once $80 a month that'll now cost close to $500 a month.
This is really the first time in a number of years that outside economic factors have really influenced as sharp of an increase as this.
City of Olathe spokesperson Cody Kennedy told me Tuesday the city is not immune to costs that are rising everywhere.
We understand that retirees have limited income. We also understand that employees have certain things they've got to pay for with children and all of those costs as well.
Kennedy says the city's insurance is lower than what the state statute sets, and that it's why its employees are able to retire early.
I feel like I'm just a number.
Todd Hart's memories are framed.
What are you telling the people that are working there today?
But now they display a different picture.
This is absolutely ridiculous. This is not sustainable.
And it's unclear if he'll ever see change.
Holding out hope that the city does the right thing.
Okay, so Todd told me that he hopes and really needs city staff to lower these premium costs so that these retirees can all afford their health care.
I hope they don't. The only way they lower the premiums is if they charge the residents more money. That's the only way the government can lower costs of anything, is by taking more money from private citizens. And I would argue that Olathe does plenty of that already as is, and they do enough of that already as is. So, no, I hope they don't. I hope that we have changes. See, these people are mad at the wrong people. They're mad at the city of Olathe. Now, you heard the guy with the city of Olathe there say, hey, we basically delayed, as I read between the lines, we delayed these increases for as long as we could, and now it's kind of an untenable situation, so people saw big spikes. Retirees saw big spikes in their health care premiums. And obviously, these people are not yet of Medicare age, because if they were, they would maybe consider just doing something like that. In which case, if you're able-bodied and you took an early retirement and you're in your late 50s, early 60s, there might be ways to make up that gap, like getting a job. How many people in the private sector right now are taking on extra work, trying to figure out ways to make extra money, in some cases to pay for their increased cost of living, which includes their property taxes in Olathe? Oh, my gosh, Mark, I just looked at the time. I'm sorry, man. I'm just zoned in. Usually John would be yelling at me by now, but Mark's too nice of a guy to do it. So, Mark, I'm going to apologize here on the air because I'm just going off on this, and I totally blew out the clock. So please accept my apology on the air.
That's all right. We got it.
All right. And please feel free to yell at me next time I do this. 913-408-7957. I want to open up the conversation with you. We've got news coming up in a minute here on KCMO. Do you have that sympathy or not? Next. Great point on the text line. Pete, it sure would be nice to hear some of these local reports discuss why insurance premiums are so high and why they're going up. Not reporting on simply why the government or why the city of Olathe isn't paying for the premiums. Well, that's exactly right. And that's the story we were just talking about here. Channel 41 had this big piece on Olathe. They started it 2 days ago on retirees with the city facing big hikes in their premiums. They highlighted this guy who worked for the fire department for 30 years, who is seeing an increase of $80 a month to $500 a month. Now, $500 a month, I hate to say it, that's actually not that bad. 80 was a steal. 500 isn't terrible. I mean, I know plenty of people paying way more than that in high deductible plans and things like that. So, yeah, that's a big hit. But let's talk about why the industry is jacked up. Not about, whoa, boy, woe is the retiree and the city of Olathe should basically be shamed into picking up the bill, because the only way they can pick up the bill is if they charge Olathe residents more money in things like property taxes and sales taxes and things of that nature. And I'm pretty sure Johnson County residents have suffered enough on that front the last few years. 913-408-7957 on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We're streaming on the app. Let's go to Pete. He is in Olathe. Pete, good morning. Pete, what's up, buddy?
Hi, great show, Pete. Love and enjoy it. Just a point. I agree with you that this is misplaced rage. The Obamacare has really been a train wreck. I recall Speaker Pelosi saying that breathlessly saying we have to sign this bill before we can see it. I suspect she was breathless because she had just called Paul Pelosi and said, "Go, honey, go invest in the Blues, United, Cigna, Ed, and Humana." Yeah,
I think you're right about that, Pete. If there's one thing I wish I did over the last 15 years, it's do a better job following Nancy Pelosi's stock trades. But you know what? I can't turn back time. I just can't do it. On the text line, Pete, you're making it sound like bread is going up from $1.29 a loaf to $1.35 a loaf, and everyone's making a big deal over nothing. No, no, that's not, no. Come on now. I'm not saying everyone's making a big deal over nothing. I'm saying, what do you do about it? Okay, so Olathe's health insurance premiums are going up for retirees. The why behind it matters, but all they're doing is doing the sob story thing. And the sob story isn't really news, okay? It's not. I mean, if local journalism was serious about news, they would actually figure out the why behind it. Instead, it's like, okay, let's put this retiree from the fire department on the news, talk about how his premiums are going up $400 a month, and how he's mad and he's taking his plaque and he's taking it from the entryway of the house into the basement. And what? And why are we here to begin with? But if they analyze that, if they look into why insurance premiums are up the last decade and a half, and especially over the last couple of years, I don't think many in media are going to like the answer they come to and the conclusion that they come to. 913-408-7957. Eli, Kansas City. What's up, Eli?
Hey, Pete, two real quick points. Olathe has mismanaged this in a huge way, and instead of giving incremental increases, we're now on the hook for the fact that they can no longer support the subsidized health care that they provided. This is indicative of everything the government does. Point two, Republicans have been arguing against and fighting against the Affordable Care Act for 15 years, and we have yet to put forward a real plan on what to do about it. This is going to hit us as people's insurance premiums continue to rise, and we look back and we say, what the hell have we done about this? We've done zero. We've had 15 years. We've come up with nothing.
I agree. Republicans have, they claim they now have some plan they'll roll out next month. I mean, thanks, guys. It's been a decade and a half. You're right. I mean, part of the reason we are where we are is because the Republicans have had zero answers for any of this. I mean, they tried a mild repeal of Obamacare during Trump's first term. Of course, John McCain put his thumb down, but you can't just blame McCain. It was a very watered down repeal of Obamacare anyway. I don't think it would have made all that big a difference what they were trying to do there. And they've just sat there and basically screamed about how Obamacare's terrible. And they have no plan themselves. They haven't. They claim they have one coming up next month, but, we'll have to wait and see. Christy, good morning. You're on KCMO. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, Christy. Go ahead.
Oh, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I think that we've got an insurance issue, but I also think that we've got a health care issue. I just recently turned 65 and went to visit my pulmonologist down at KU Med and was due for an immunization, a pneumonia shot. And I could have gone to CVS and, no copay or anything, but he said, why don't you just get it here? I said, okay. I got a bill for $2,000 for one shot. And so I called Medicare, and they said, well, it's a shot that's, a normal shot, so we'll pay for it. I said, that's not the point. $2,000 is a ridiculous price. I called KU Med, and the answer in their billing department was, we charge what all of the other hospitals, so St. Luke's and, some of the other ones, some of the other big ones down there that she named off, and she said, that is what the going price for a pneumonia vaccine is, and so that's what we charge. And
that is crazy.
I called my supplemental insurance, and they said, it basically is the healthcare provider that sets those prices. And I just think, we've got an insurance problem. I get that. But if the healthcare providers are going to be jacking their prices up because, hey, everybody else charges $2,000, don't tell me if I can go to CVS and get an immunization for, a small copay or something that really is an immunization that has to charge that much.
Yeah.
So Yeah. You know, I think part of it is that our meds are so much more expensive in this country. You know, but I don't know if that is
Well,
the
you know, that's something that's come up a lot, right? They'll say, well, and people will say, thank you, Christy, the cost of, the medications are sky high. And look at what they do in Europe. Well, basically, all the research, the R&D is all done here. I understand the companies have to make their money back on that. And then what really happens is our technology gets ripped off by other countries, and they put in basically fixed pricing, and it really screws the American companies in large part. So that's something that's, I think, got to be corrected overseas, because basically the rest of the world is freeloading off our R&D. What I see is just an entire system that is so broken, you can't compare prices anywhere. It's not like you're going to call up and say, well, what's it going to cost me if I do this here versus there? I was at the dentist yesterday, and I got a feeling that's eventually going to have to be redone. It's not bad, and they're going to do it, when I go to my next cleaning next year. It's not an immediate deal. But they gave me this, bill to look over, and the cost was going to be $400, and I'm going to owe $75, right? And they have these numbers all broken down. Like, it costs $418. There's a $200 discount. I'm not quite sure why. The insurance picks up $100 and change, and the patient owes $75. And, you're just sitting there. You're like, all right, I guess. What am I going to do? I like the dentist. They do a good job. You're going to start, calling around and pricing this stuff out. It's such a jacked up industry on all this stuff. And it's one of the many reasons we find ourselves in the position that we're in. Danny in Pittsburgh, you're on KCMO.
Yeah, I worked a job up here in Kansas City for 35 years.
Yep.
And then realized that I couldn't survive, so I did the reasonable thing. I got a damn job. Come on, people. Let's pull our head out of our you-know-what and move on.
All right. Tell me how you really feel there, Danny. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But that's the thing with the folks in Olathe, the early retirees. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it. I'm sorry your health care premiums went up. I didn't know that part of the deal was that, hey, when you retire early, yes, after serving the city, thank you, you can't suffer some of the same consequences that the rest of us in the private sector suffer, which is increased costs.
There's 2 Walmarts in Olathe. Go be a greeter.
You know what? John Anthony has said many times, things don't work out for him here. He's going to be a greeter. All right? John will be a gruff greeter, but he'd hold the line. All right? You're not getting past John Anthony, who, by the way, for those of you concerned, just taking a little vacation. Don't sweat it. Adam, Kansas City, what's up, man?
Good morning, man. Thank you for taking the call. I appreciate it. You guys have a great show here. I just wanted to piggyback on just kind of the broken healthcare system. A couple of years ago, I took my newborn son to the ER. He was running a high temperature. He was just a couple of days old. And they kind of rushed me back, didn't get any of my insurance information, just had me sign a form. So a few weeks later, I get a bill for $675. And I said, okay, well, I've got insurance. So I call the hospital, give my insurance information, and the next thing I know, I get a bill for $3,500. So it almost went up 100% from $600 to $6,000 total. And it's just why are we doing this? Why are we charging people without insurance $600, and if you have insurance, you're getting charged $6,000?
And you don't even know where you're supposed to go or whether or not you should go here or there, because you have no idea what the price difference is going to be.
Yeah, it's inconsistent, and then it's part of me just wants to say next time I go to the ER, I'm going to say I don't have insurance. My bill's going to be much cheaper.
No, it might.
What's the point of insurance?
It might.
If I'm going to pay less without it, it's such a broken system. So we need to figure it out.
You know, we were our oldest. Thank you, Adam. Was pretty sick the last week. She's better today, but she had pneumonia in her right lung. So she was kind of sick late last week, a little more sick over the weekend, and then it got worse on Monday. So we're like, do we take her to Children's Mercy, urgent care? We've been to our doctor already. They said, hey, you got to go get her x-rays. Where do we go? What's all that going to cost? And you just do it because your kid's sick. You know something's wrong. but you have no idea what any of this stuff is going to end up costing you. You have no idea. And that's the crazy system, to Adam's point, that we find ourselves in. All right, last word from Ron Basor. Go ahead there, Ron.
Hey, Pete. Yeah, you're talking about pricing, and, really there is a way to find out how much things cost. We were on a healthcare sharing ministry for the last 9 years before we went on Medicare, and I took a fair amount of time and sampled, what it would cost to go to the different hospitals in the Kansas City area if you didn't have insurance. And it is pretty inexpensive if you don't have insurance. And most of the hospitals in the Kansas City market will work with you if you don't have insurance. Part of the reason why healthcare is so expensive is because people just do stuff and they go to hospitals that charge exorbitant amounts of money, and the insurance companies wind up paying it. So part of it is just self-education. And so,
well, I'm not going to give any excuses. I'll just say this, Ron. When you got sick little kids and a bunch of them, I mean, you got to start calling around trying to price things out. You're just going to go where you can go and where that your insurance at least, covers you to some extent, but you're not going to do much more than that, right?
Right. But again, it's we're as Americans, we're lazy. And so, and people think that they have to have insurance. The insurance companies scare you into buying insurance, and then you go in there and you throw your insurance card down, not realizing that, it could be 10 times more. I had surgery in Oklahoma City, and the bill was $100,000, and I gave them a charge card, and the no insurance charge was $10,000.
The what insurance charge?
Basically, the cash amount that they accepted for that $100,000 bill was $10,000.
Yeah. Well, where's the other 90? That's the point.
I don't know.
That's what I mean.
Insurance, the bill was $100,000.
But you're telling me we're lazy and no one does the homework, and you can't tell me where the other $90,000 went or where it came from or who paid for it. That's the point.
They wrote it off.
Well, what does that mean? Did it cost $100,000 or not?
Well, I don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, this is the point. No one knows. Right?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. This is such a screwed up industry and a screwed up business, and the government being involved in it has made it worse. And if local media wants to do the research on this stuff and have the conversations and find the experts, do that versus finding the retiree and doing the sob story on the Olathe firefighter who's getting screwed over a premium increase, which really means nothing in the grand scheme of things. As much as I feel bad for the guy. All right, they've got it all fixed in Kansas City. We are looking at a utopia for the foreseeable future because they're going after the parking lots. All right? They approved new rules yesterday at City Council designed to improve safety and address problem businesses, parking lots, and public spaces across Kansas City. They say that the action will strengthen the city's ability to respond to complaints and act to improve safety. The ordinance updates the city's chronic nuisance code. It originally focused on parking lots in the city's entertainment district. The code now includes all problem properties citywide. Enhanced response to violent offenses. A single violent offense, when combined with one other qualifying incident within a 6-month period, will now automatically trigger a review by the Neighborhood Services Department. I mean, this is like, oh, jeez. Oh, my gosh. This is like Orwellian out of 1984. All right, so if you got a couple of violations, which is kind of a gray area as they figure out what exactly would trigger a review, you're going in front of the Neighborhood Services Department. Yeah, that'll definitely be a quick and easy process. Government upon government upon government. We'll lower the threshold for standard cases. The number of incidents required to classify as a property as a chronic nuisance within 180 days has been reduced from 7 to 5. See, this is all feel-good nonsense. So the number of incidents required to classify a property as a chronic nuisance within 180 days used to be 7, now it's 5. So what does that mean? They're only going to flag you if 5 people get killed outside of your liquor store versus 7? Boy, we're bringing down crime. We're really going after them. Expedited timeline for violent cases. Property owners facing violent offense allegations will now have 10 days to develop an abatement plan, a reduction from 30 days. This is a joke. This is a joke. You guys better have that plan back to us in 10 days, said the government, who can't do anything in any reasonable amount of time. But don't worry, reducing that number from 30 to 10 is going to make a big difference. And then the Neighborhood Services Department will use a broader range of reports, including those from the Kansas City Police Department, licensed private security service providers, and the city's multidisciplinary public safety task force when reviewing complaints. Just going to bang my head against the wall. That's all I'm going to do here. Just bang my head against the wall. I don't know what else to do. I mean,
I'm getting pissed now.
I don't know what else to do. I can't figure this stuff out. Just get the worst of the worst criminals, get them off the streets, and focus on building the damn jail. That's it. This is not hard. Don't overcomplicate it.